I'm Brooks Rainwater, and I am the CEO of the Urban Libraries Council. Great to be here today. For those of you that are unaware, our organization works to raise the profile of libraries as essential agents that transform people and communities. Because more than any civic institution, the resources that libraries provide have a positive impact on community well-being. We identify the significant challenges are typically large urban library members face. We have 194 members across North America, in the U.S. and Canada, and we develop new tools and techniques to help them thrive. So how did I get here? I've run ULC for 3.5 years now. Prior to that, I was at the National League of Cities, but I began my career at the American Institute of Architects. I care greatly about how cities come together, design, planning, and everything in between. And so I worked for the American Institute of Architects for nearly a decade, doing government relations, public policy work, really keying in on sustainability and environmental policy. I care a lot about green buildings and how buildings and cities more broadly can transform the world in a positive way. And so that led me from there to the National League of Cities, where I ran the Center for City Solutions, which was their research institute, also did technical assistance and leadership education there, but built a department very much focused on doing research across everything that was important to cities, whether we're talking about housing, transportation, climate issues, entrepreneurship, and small business, and libraries. So libraries are something I've always cared deeply about. I see them as anchor institutions, the glue that holds cities together. They are the core place where people come together, certainly for knowledge, everything that libraries have to offer, but really as places for people, because libraries are premier public spaces within our communities, and they matter for so many reasons. But I think libraries being a palace for people or a place for people, however you want to phrase it, is the core thing that they do. And our members, all of those 194 libraries, reflect that, whether they're in a large city like New York City, or whether they're someplace like Kansas City, whether they're up in Saskatchewan, Canada. Like, all of these places are very different, and their libraries are reflective of that. And so that's what brought me to the Urban Libraries Council, where I'm passionate to work on behalf of those members every single day. And because to some extent, my story in the Urban Library Councils is the story of those members. The work that they're doing in libraries across North America is what really, really matters. And that work, unfortunately, was somewhat impeded this year because, we've been seeing things that, politicians and others have been trying to devalue what's happening in libraries. We're facing partisan attacks on the freedom to read, budget constraints, misinformation, and all of this has ramped up more and more in recent years. And just this year, libraries across the U.S., large urban libraries like we represent, but especially small and rural libraries, saw a head-on attack when the Institute of Museum and Library Services, or IMLS, the organization that provides vital resources to libraries across the nation, was gutted by an executive order. And we saw this happening to many institutions within American government. But of course, our primary focus is on libraries, and so we really saw this happening, and we got right on it. We worked with our members, we worked with small and rural library members to push back, because the federal agency, as all libraries are, is completely nonpartisan, and it should be respected for that reason. It's not a Republican or Democratic library agency. It is IMLS for everyone. And, it funded vital programs like Braille books for the blind in Louisiana, education kits for homeschool families in Choctaw County, Mississippi, and STEM literacy programs in Virginia Beach. And the result was one library in Alaska even had to shut down. But luckily, our libraries, along with many others, including small library peers, stood up and told their stories to members of Congress from both parties in the House and in the Senate. And we are seeing relief. We are seeing that these things are coming together. And, at the end of the day, libraries are the beating heart of America. They're the democratic lifeblood that shapes who we are now and will be far into the future.